Okay, doc. Now let us take up the next question. A woman has delivered with neural tube defects, and we have done a study. How many of them have taken aspirin, how many did not? This is a classical example of what we call it as a case control trial. So in case control trial, how do you basically calculate the risk, doctor? Through the odds ratio is what need to be remembered. 1200 patients, blood glucose had been evaluated. You got a positively skewed data. As we already discussed, what is the positively skewed data, doctor? The mean is greater than, median is greater than mode. Makes it a positively tailed skewed data is what need to be basically remembered. Now, you shoot me an answer. Oxidase positive, lactose non-fermenting, gram-negative rod. What is going to be your confident answer? Gram-negative. Clostridium is an answer shot by Manu. So also RMC. Anybody would like to venture out a better answer for this question on sale? Yes? Salmonella is an answer we are getting from Dilip and also from Nampally. Varangal, our guns say it is Salmonella. Guntur says Shigella. Okay, doctor. This is one table which is going to save the life in the tomorrow's exam. Based on gram staining, how will you conduct autopsy? Gram negative hai to pink. They can be cocci, they can be coccoid, they can be rods. Agreed? If they are cocci, there will be either Neisseria, meningitis or gonorrhea. Then look whether maltose fermentation is possible or not. Maltose non-fermenter is gonorrhea, maltose fermenter is Neisseria meningitis. Many times we discussed this as a question. If it is a coccoid rod, then it will be Haemophilus, then it will require factor V and X. Pasteurella, animal bite history will be there. Brucella, Bordetella. They are all coccoid rods which are gram negative. Then, if they are gram negative rods, look whether they are lactose fermenters or not. If they are fermenters, are they fast or slow fermenters? Slow fermenters, then they are Serratia. Fast fermenters will be Klebsiella, E. coli and Enterobacter. If they are non-fermenters, look whether they are oxidase positive or not. If they are oxidase positive, then they are Pseudomonas. And if they are oxidase negative, there will be Shigella, Salmonella, Proteus as told by Dilip, etc., etc. Okay, doctor? Then if they are gram negative, if they are comma shaped and oxidase positive, look whether they grow at 42 degrees, Campylobacter. If they grow in alkaline medium, then they are Vibrio cholera. Entire world of microbiology, gram negative, sits in this table. This is the most high yield topic which you have to be very sure for the tomorrow's exam, doctor. And when this question comes, you will remember me. Now, in mitral valve collapse, you will have chest pain, arrhythmias, infective endocarditis, anything is possible. Constrictive pericarditis may, how will be JVP? It is a steep Y descent on JVP, not X descent. In the case of the constrictive pericarditis is what need to be remembered. YX descent, YY, what is Y descent? We discussed in our earlier discussions. Okay, doctor. Coming to ECG. If you find a Q wave in lead 3, don't jump in a conclusion that there is a old MI. It can be normal finding. R wave in VL of 12 mm or right bundle branch block, any of them can be normal findings. But what is a normal PR interval? It should be more than 0.11 and less than 0.2. And any PR interval about 0.22 is definitely a prolonged PR interval signifying a first degree heart block is what need to be remembered. Digoxin in therapeutic doses, what ECG changes it will bring? Toxic doses, what changes it will bring? Favorite topic of the examiner. First degree heart block is a feature which you see in toxic doses. But T wave flattening, shortening of the QT, prolongation of the RR, any of them are basically therapeutic doses of the digoxin. Any patient, Pullamma, Buchamma, who had mitral stenosis, who has atrial fibrillation, whom you are giving digitalis regularly in the medicine ward, M1, M2, M3, M4, you go and check her ECG. You will find the prolonged RR interval or a corrected QT interval which is shortened less than 0.42 and a T wave flattening. Any of them can be found at therapeutic doses of the digoxin is what need to be remembered. Coronary artery stenosis, stents. If the vessel size of the coronary is smaller than how much, if you put a stent it will lead to problems. Occlusion of the stent is much more common if you place a stent when the diameter of the coronary is less than 3 millimeters of diameter is what you are going to ultimately remember. In coarctation, classically constriction is distal, not proximal to the origin of the subclavian is what need to be remembered. There is a mitral stenosis. Always, what is the rule in mitral stenosis, doctor? Until atrial fibrillation doesn't develop, mitral stenosis is a good baby. The moment atrial fibrillation developed means it is a bad prognosis. Why? Mitral stenosis, only when it becomes severe it leads to atrial enlargement. Only when atrium enlarges it leads to atrial fibrillation. So you found atrial fibrillation means atrium got enlarged, that means there is a severe MS which has got a poorer prognosis is what need to be remembered. Okay, doc. Now coming to the vomiting, I know lot of you might have answered C, am I right? Because it leads to secondary hyperaldosteronism and retention of sodium. In the early phases there is a natriuresis. Later phases may, when secondary hyperaldosteronism develops, then sodium retains. So in early phase still there is an increased urinary sodium, but decreased intracellular H plus is not a feature of the vomiting. It is the extracellular H plus which is decreased, leading to metabolic alkalosis in the case of the vomiting patient is what need to be understood. Coming to carcinoids. Carcinoids deplete, overproduce serotonin, which depletes tryptophan, which will affect niacin, which lead to pellagra, as all of you know very well. Now in HIV, it is the oral leukoplakia which is considered to be hairy leukoplakia, which is considered to be a very specific feature of HIV. Esophageal carcinoma can occur with caustic stricture, achalasia, tylosis. Anybody answered achalasia? Thinking achalasia does not lead to cancer? It leads to. It can lead to. Pyloric stenosis may, you find volume contraction due to vomiting. When the plasma volume is contracted, urea concentration is increased. There can be rise of PaCO2. Why? Because pyloric stenosis lead to vomiting, vomiting lead to metabolic alkalosis. To compensate it, the respiratory system, what it will do? It will retain CO2 and lead to development of compensation. Respiratory compensation will be there for a metabolic alkalosis. So there will be raised PaCO2, raise in hematocrit because of the vomiting and dehydration. IgA nephropathy is the most common cause leading to the development of primary glomerulonephritis. It won't lead to nephrotic picture, it lead to nephritic picture is what you are going to remember. Coming to nephrotic syndrome, they are hypercoagulable, they are more susceptible to infections is what need to be basically remembered. Optic nerve doesn't pass through cavernous sinus, but what passes? Abducent, oculomotor, trochlear, ophthalmic division of trigeminal, they all typically pass through the cavernous sinus is what need to be remembered. Shoot me answer, doctor. Major cause of bloody diarrhea. Fecal-oral transmission is seen. It is oxidase positive, comma shaped. Now I know you will sabotage me. Yeah. What is your answer? I know, doctor. Campylobacter. This question is asked to check that you did not go into that drowsy state with our earlier illustration. Campylobacter, jejuni is what need to be basically remembered. Subarachnoid hemorrhage is commonly because of aneurysms. If there is an aneurysm involving the PCOM, posterior communicating artery, then it will compress on the third cranial nerve which is exiting through the midbrain, which can lead to oculomotor palsy. One of the common surgical causes for the oculomotor palsy is the PCOM aneurysm. Posterior communicating artery aneurysm is what need to be fundamentally remembered. Now in cataplexy, even a surprise attack, you open newspaper, you found an announcement, can lead to development of cataplexy. Sudden REM sleep intrusion will be there and person can go into a falling fainting episode. Now Gilles-Dillard-Tourette syndrome, what's the kind of inheritance? It is more common in boys than girls, but it is not due to sex-linked autosomal recessive inheritance. Sex-linked recessive inheritance is not associated. There will be tics. Haloperidol is considered to be most effective way to treat it. Creutzfeldt-Jakob syndrome typically has got a long incubation period is what you need to fundamentally remember. Neuromuscular junction like myasthenia gravis, you don't use creatinine kinase. Creatinine kinase is used for myopathies, not for neuromuscular junction disorders. Neuropathies, myelopathies, radiculopathies, neuromuscular junction disorders, myopathies, you must know all the differences. In hypothalamus, a lesion of hypothalamus can lead to hyperprolactinemia, not hypo, and galactorrhea can occur, is what we have to remember.